Looks like I've got me a little stem point of some sort out of Wyandotte chert. So, and all I found so far this whole year has been one little bitty Riverton bird point. So this is my first decent sized point of the whole year. I'm usually don't go that long without finding something. So here we go. Nice little early woodland point. Got a little cortex on the base, but I'll take it. I've worked hard to get it. This place was underwater last time I was here, but I can actually walk it now, and got a broken one nestled in here amongst the roots and debris and stuff. Well, that thing's had a rough life. It's been fire popped and it's broken several different ways. Can't tell what type it originally was, some kind of a stem point, but it is there's pock marks where it's been fire popped on that side. This whole side's been obliterated and the tip's gone, but still kind of a cool find. February 11th 2024, and been a slow year this year. Yesterday I actually found my best piece of the year. It was an Adena drill made out of Wyandotte chert, and I didn't get it on video. I didn't have my phone with me when I found it. I wasn't really expecting to find anything on that site. And that's only the third point I found this year. I found a little Riverton, a little stem point in that. So here I am, middle of February, and I only found 3 points. So it is a slow year. Haven't really been hunting along rivers much. Everything's mucked in from what I understand. This is where Jacob found the axe back in December. And this is the beauty of moldboard or mowed plowing. This is what the farmers used to do all the time. Look how this was turned back in December, I think, November, December. And look how the dirt is still piled up, and it is going to melt down all spring. We haven't had any real hard rains. We've had several rains on this, but the chert is just now starting to show up. When Jacob found his axe, there was hardly any flakes in this field. Now there are flakes all over the place. The artifacts are just now starting to wash out. I've already found a number of things here. You can see I've got, whoop, let me just lay them down. It's too hard to run the phone and hold these at the same time. Got a big blade. Here's a hafted scraper. Here's a point tip. Here's a midsection out of something, and here's the end off a scraper. So none of this stuff was showing the last time it rained, and each time it rains this spring, these big clods are going to melt down a little bit more. And that's why arrowhead hunting used to be so much more fun, because all the farmers fall plowed, and all fall and all winter and all spring, every time it rained, a few more things would wash out of these fields until it was flattened in. Now, the bad thing about that is you lose your topsoil if you're on a steep area, and you can see where this is turned, it's just on the flat part of the hill, so it's just going to kind of melt down in place and leave the rocks exposed, but we're not going to lose any topsoil here. This is going to become a perennial wildflower plot, so it may not be turned again for a number of years, but we're taking advantage of it while it is turned right now and finding some stuff in this slow year. And I have a point base sticking out up here. I don't know if it's going to be whole or another hafted scraper, but it looks like it's heat treated fossiliferous chert. And not sure how big it is or if it's whole, but it looks like a real pretty one, a lot of reds and pinks. So I thought I'd go get my phone and let you all enjoy me pulling it, and we can do it together. Here we go. It's a whole point. Probably something late archaic. I don't know, the base almost, yeah, I think it's late archaic, just the way it's flaked. I thought it might be a woodland piece, but just a neat little point. And there's going to be a lot more as these clods of dirt melt down and we get some heavy spring rains. Here's a piece of hornstone or Wyandotte chert, little flake. And see, last time I hunted this, there probably weren't 10 flakes in the whole field, and now I'm going to find more than 10 artifacts in the field today. So anyway, hope you enjoyed finding this little piece, and let's see if we can't find some more. And if I get permission on all these places, I think I'm going to get permission, I may have some great videos for you folks this spring. All right, this used to be an old house site, and I just found looks like part of an old kitchen knife. You can see the wooden handle still intact on it, and the metal's about all rusted away. The house was somewhere over there and was bulldozed off into the woods years ago, way before I was born. And then also, you know, you're in limestone country when you find stuff like this. This is a core sample where they've drilled down to see what kind of limestone's in here. On the other side of that hill, there are 2 active limestone quarries, so there's some really good stone here. We are in the limestone capital of the world, so At some point, this field has been tested. They have cored it at some kind of interval. They've drilled down to see what kind of stone, how deep it is, how thick it is, and what quality of stone. There's different grades of like buff and different, they have all different types of stone based on the color and the grain of the stone and things like that. But this is I've actually found 8 or 10 of those in this field. This field has been cored at some point to see, and obviously there's limestone here. I don't know what kind of quality there is, but kind of neat. I thought it was a pestle when I first saw it laying there, but it's a limestone core. Sun's just about to set, and I'm just about on my last pass. And I look down, I got a real nice red heat-treated base of something sticking out here. So let's hope it's all there. Feels good. Oh, that's probably a 3-inch point. Late archaic stemmed. It's kind of thick, but it's still a nice, beautiful red heat-treated fossiliferous chert, Harrodsburg or Allen's Creek, and probably about a 3-incher close to it. And so that's 2 points I found today. The stuff's just starting to wash out. As it rains more and more this spring, I'm going to keep finding more. Excellent way to end the day, I guess. This is a site I've never found anything on, but I know it's a good site. In fact, my buddy found a point here last spring that he won best personal find in an artifact show with. So it's definitely a good site, but I've yet to find anything until today. And it's pretty mucky conditions here and everything. But I've got me a little hafted scraper or blunt laying up here. So it's the first thing I found today. There it is laying there. Kind of looks like Jeffersonville chert. Either something late archaic or early woodland. No grinding on the base, just the way it's made. I'm guessing that time period. But at least it's something. The first thing I've ever found on this site, and first thing I found today. And when I've only found 5 things all year, this is a pretty good find. I didn't think he was real for a minute. It looked like a plastic fishing worm to me. I don't know if I've ever seen a worm that color before. Some kind of grub. It's weird that he's out moving in February, but this has been a warm year. And lo and behold, there's a piece of fossiliferous chert, Allen's Creek or Harrodsburg. Don't know if it's going to be whole or not, but it looks like a stem point, either late archaic or early woodland. So I'm going to quit talking and let you all enjoy picking this up with me. Oh, it snapped in half. Darn it. It was laying there like it was going to be a whole one, but the tip's been snapped off, but still a nice little point, probably 4,000 or 5,000 or 6 years old. You can see it was heat treated here towards the tip, the part that snapped off. That's why it's pink or reddened, and they've just broken the heck out of it. I thought maybe it would be a hafted scraper, but it doesn't look like they've worked the end of it. It's just snapped off. But still a really neat little find. New season, new boots. This isn't much, but I missed the most exciting pull I've had in several years a little bit ago. It was broken, but it was an adrenaline rush. I'll tell more about it at the end of the video. And haven't found much at all today, so I can already tell this little triangle's nicked, but I wanted to get something on film being picked up. That's what it is, little Madison triangle with just a little nick out of the base. Still a neat point, has a little spot in it. It's kind of cool. Alright, I just picked up that Madison point there. I saw a rock and like an idiot didn't film it. And I just flipped it out of the ground. You can see the part that was exposed and you can see the sand on it, but I've just peeled, it looks like a pretty good celt. I haven't found a celt in over 15 years. So this is a site I've hunted over and over and never found anything, and I don't know, I was just thinking, why did I come here? It's way out of the way, and but I just felt like there's a reason this thing keeps calling me back, and I guess this celt was the reason. So I just found a little Madison point, celt, they go together, both late woodland pieces. But I think the last celt I found, honestly, was in the early 2000s, so it's been close to 20 years. But anyway, this I should have known. But I have flipped like 20 pieces of stone just like that on this beach, and they were all nothing. In fact, I dug out a piece a minute ago I thought was an axe. I could see part of it, so I just assumed this was nothing too, and I flipped it out. I wish I'd have gotten this on film. But anyway, here we go. So you can see this is the part that was exposed. It's lighter. Here's the sand. So it was laying in there just like this. I hit it with my stick and flipped it out. But it's a nice little celt. Beautiful, decent amount of polish on the bit, sharp bit, and unlike the celts I find in cornfields, this does not have an implement mark on it. So it's not my nicest made celt or biggest celt or anything, but it's my nicest one, I think, because all the rest of them are scratched up. I've probably found 8 or 10 in my life. But and I'm going to do a little instruction here for some of you novices. You can see these little marks. I hope the camera's picking up. This is called pecking. This is where they've taken a piece of chert or another stone to shape this celt, and they've pecked it, and you can see it has that rough, almost like craters on the moon. Then down here on the working end, on the bit, they have polished this bit to sharpen it and bring it to a point. So this has been done by polishing and grinding, where they would take a sandstone or some other abrasive. There's some plants that can do that as well. And they polish the bit, and then the bit's also got polished. This is basically an axe without a groove in it, so this would go in a handle, and you would chop wood with it, and that would also add to the polish as you chop through the wood or the plant fibers. So my first celt in probably 2 decades or close to it, so I'm pretty stoked right now. All right, so I just found that celt 30 yards down that way, and I walked down here and I can see it's broken, but I can see the groove of an axe. Oh, it's really broken, but this is a really, I wish you could feel how smooth this is. This is really highly polished, and look how well defined that groove is. It's not just a halfway done groove. It has really got crisp lines in it. A lot of times the groove's polished really well, but the rest of the axe isn't. But this thing, the entire axe is polished really highly. This was a 3/4 grooved axe. You can see the groove doesn't go around this part of it here, but it goes around the rest of it. Not sure the material, but man, now I know why I've hunted this site for several years, never found anything, but I keep coming back to it. I never gave up on it. I just had a feeling about it, but I'm definitely going to keep hunting this site. I decided if I didn't find anything on today, I was never going to come back because it's kind of out of the way. It's a long way for me to come here to hunt, but by golly, it's worth it today. As you can see, this has already been walked to death, but here's looks like some kind of a blade. Oh, that's a nice one. That's like paper thin, probably an Adena preform, because this is an Adena site. Yeah, that's very thin. Awesome. All right, it's March 21st, 2024. I can't really call it a cleanup video because I haven't cleaned anything up, but I would say a summary video. Haven't found much this year. This is actually the first day I've hunted in March. So this 21st of March, usually it's a good month for me, and I haven't even been out. I've gone on 3 or 4 hunts that I didn't even film because I didn't find anything that would be of interest to you, not even broken stuff. It's just been a rough year. It's kind of weird. I didn't find a hornet's nest last fall. Usually, the last 3 years in a row, I found a real nice hornet nest. This year, I didn't find any. I haven't found a single antler shed this spring. I usually find a half dozen or so, and I've actually looked a few times. Usually, I just find them out messing around. And the artifacts have been slow, but this was the first really good hunt I've had this year. Conditions weren't all that great, but I went to some places I don't usually go, and I found a few decent things. So I'm just going to kind of go through the artifacts that I found. I'd said in the video I had a pull that was the best I'd had in a while. That was this. That's broken. This was an obscure place. I'd never found anything in my life, and in the muck I saw this much of a tip sticking out and pulled on it, and this whole thing came out, and unfortunately the base was damaged, so I'm not sure exactly what it is. I don't know if it's a Kirk with the base off of it or what, but this is a really nice point, and it was an adrenaline rush. It's adrenaline rush when you see a whole point just laying there. That's probably the second best adrenaline rush, but for me the absolute best one is when there's just a little bit sticking out like that and you actually have a pull and you pull it out of the ground and see what you get, because it kind of builds and intensifies. The other is an immediate adrenaline rush, and this is kind of one that builds and gets a little bit stronger, I think. But I hadn't had a good pull like that in a while. So I found that. I'll go through some of these other things. Just a couple bifaces. Here's a core. And a core is what's left when they knock lots of flakes off a piece. And this is a core that was then made into a chert hammer. Some cores have really nice straight lines on them where they drove blades off of them, like if they drove lamellar blades, which are basically stone razor blades, real thin stone blades. But this one is a core where they knocked a bunch of different flakes off, and then they use this as a chert hammer. You can see how it's crushed on the edges. So they might have used this to make an axe or a celt or a pestle or something out of hardstone where they needed a hammer made out of chert. They might have even hafted the hammer in some kind of little handle, just like we have the metal part of a hammer is mounted to a handle, wooden handle. They may have done the same, but this crushed edge shows me that they use this as a chert hammer, but it was also a core. Couple other things. This is a unifacial knife. See, it's not really worked on this side, it's just worked on one side, and it's not broken. This is actually a spoke shave in here, which is like a semicircular place that's been worked like this, notched out, and this would be to shave down, like shafts for spears or for arrows or something like that, or wagon spokes. Back in the old days, if you'd be using a metal spoke shave, but it's the same kind of tool. But that's what spoke shaves were. They're literally for shaving thin pieces of wood off something that was somewhat rounded. So you made them to about the width of whatever it was. If you had a spear diameter the size of that or an arrow diameter, that's about the size you would make it. So it fits the contour and the curvature, and you just kind of whittle it in. Couple other pieces. Here's a base. I'm not sure the chert type, off of some kind of a blade. Here is a broken Madison point, which I found right next to the celt. Here's another broken unidentified point of some type. Then I found this really nice blade or preform. I'm guessing it's Adina because this was a site where I've never found anything but Adinas on it before. You can see this is a pretty thin, well-made blade. This is made out of Wyandotte chert, so I'm guessing it's an Adina blade. I also found, here's a rougher, thicker blade made out of Derby chert. And Derby chert is one of my favorites. You don't find it on very many sites. It doesn't have that wide of a distribution area compared to Wyandotte. It has a wide area, but there's just not as much of it. But it's beautiful. It can be kind of pink or purple or white, and it's always semi-translucent. So I found that. I also found on the same side, I found a tip off another biface made out of Derby chert. It's just beautiful stuff. I wish I had more points made out of it. I found some pottery. This one, this was a whole piece, and then I actually fell and broke it. It was in my pocket. But look how thick this is. This is really early. This is early woodland pottery. This also came off that Adina site, so I'm guessing this would be from the early woodland Adina period. But look how thick that is. And it has some cord marking in it. And then on a totally different site, look how thin this piece of pottery is. This is actually a rim sherd, which means this was the top of the pot. See, it's a flattened rim. And it also has cord marking. But when you look at the two of them together, look how much thinner the second one is than the first one. So here's the early woodland Adina pottery. This is, I'm guessing, late woodland. It's much more refined. It's like a lot of technology. It got better over time. So the really early stuff was generally very thick. And then later on, it got thinner and more refined. So this would have been later on, maybe with low flared base points, or maybe with Madison triangles or Jack-3 pentagonals. And then this is tempered with chert. Temper is something you add to the ceramics, so when you fire them, they don't blow up. They used all types of different things. They could use sand, they could use shell, they could use limestone. There's a lot of different things they use as temper. In this case, you can see little flakes of Wyandotte chert in it that they used as a temper to kind of hold this together when it was being fired so it didn't explode. So it's interesting, though, to find pottery from two totally different time periods like that and to see how they differ, how much different this piece of ceramics look compared to this piece of ceramics, which is quite a bit older. All right, and then the two best pieces of the day from the same site, close to where I found that Madison point. This axe would have been just great. This thing is polished all the way around. It's got a very well-defined groove. It was a 3/4 grooved axe, as I said earlier in the video. I wish I had the rest of it. And then this celt. I hadn't found a celt. I thought about it. It's been like over 15 years since I found a celt. It's kind of weird because they're more common than axes. I've probably found 6 axes in the last 15 years since I found my last celt, but I haven't found a celt in years. When I was a kid, I found a number of celts before I ever found an axe. So you just kind of go through different phases like that. This one's interesting because this side of the celt is rounded, and in this side they have worked it just completely flat. So I'm guessing that had something to do with how they hafted it in the handle. And a Celt, like I said, would just be as like an axe that didn't have a groove in it. So this would be for splitting wood and things like that. And this was just laying there, and I didn't recognize it until I hit it with a stick because, as I mentioned in the video, I flipped over probably 1,000 stones on that beach that looked just like that were nothing. It reminds me of a story. When I used to do archaeology, there was a guy named Larry Catt. He got his master's degree in anthropology, and then he joined the Army, and he became a lieutenant colonel. Was real successful. I think he jumped out of airplanes and everything. He was in airborne stuff. And when he retired, because you can retire at a fairly young age, so he's in his early mid-50s. He came back to Indiana University and worked in the archaeology lab with us and worked on projects. And one day we were in Noblesville, near Noblesville, Indiana, Hamilton County, Indiana, I believe is where we're at. And we're in a field, and we're all standing there at the end of the day, and there's a stone there, kind of like this thing was laying there. And I took my stick and flipped it over, and it had a really nice pit in it. It was a nutting stone. And Larry just went ballistic. And he said, "You cuss word. I have cuss word looked at cuss word, 1,000 cuss word of those cuss words, and I have not found a single one that was worked. And you cuss word flip over one of those cuss words, and you find one that has a pit in it." So the story would be more interesting if I could say the exact language Larry used, but since a lot of kids might be watching this video, I'm not going to. But anyway, that kind of reminded me of that, where there's just so many stones that look like this on that beach, and then this one was just laying there, and until I flipped it, I didn't realize what I had. So I didn't get me flipping it on film, but I did kind of get it, showed you exactly how it was laying there. But anyway, I'm real happy to have a Celt. It's been a long time, and this is a pretty daggone nice one. And I had never found anything on that site, and then today I found that point and the Celt and the axe. So I will definitely be hunting that site again. Okay, here's the Celt wet. I just cleaned it just so you can see all the color in that granite. That's got some really beautiful color popping out now that I cleaned the dirt off of it and it's wet. So, and you can see the polish on the bit. Just a nice Celt. So anyway, thanks for looking up. I hope you all are finding stuff. And I think as we get into April and May, those are usually my best months. The farmers start turning the fields, and we usually get the spring thunderstorms. So hopefully I'll have some more good videos for you soon. But it's been kind of slow going, but this made up for it. This was a pretty daggone good day.